I'm gonna demonstrate something amazing in this video. It's amazing to me, and it's something I've been working on and just hoping I could find for since about 2014 now. And what it is an emulation setup with no input lag. I found out about input lag from this game, Battletoads, and what you're watching right now is the Clinger-Winger stage, the most demanding stage, the most demanding input lag section on any game I've ever played in my life by far. And I could not beat this on emulation until recently. And so what I'm showing here is me playing it on an original Nintendo. And you can see you need very precise timing in this. You have to change your directions at just the right moment. And if you make a mistake, it gets cumulative and cumulative. So the input lag just builds up through this level. And I couldn't beat it with the RetroPie. I couldn't beat it with my CRT Crtemudriver Retroarch with run ahead enabled, which I'm going to demonstrate in this video. But I finally was able to beat it with the MiSTer. And that's kind of the punchline of this whole thing is the MiSTer is an emulation setup with no input lag. And people had said that, but you know, I wasn't so sure. And for me, this is the most powerful demonstration that there's no input lag on the MiSTer, at least for the Nintendo core. So right now you're just watching me play it on the Nintendo. And I'm playing on a flash cart. So I have save states on my flash cart on my EverDrive. So I just load stated back to the beginning, and I'm gonna beat it twice just to show that on original hardware I can beat this every single time. Like, I don't know, I might be distracted thinking about how beautiful my BVM is and die every once in a while, but pretty much I can beat it every single time. And when I first got into gaming, retro gaming, for a year I beat a bunch of hard games. You know, I beat Adventures of Link, I beat Ninja Gaiden 1, whatever. I beat a bunch of hard games on a really shitty, like 10 frames of input lag setup. And then when I got to this game, Battletoads, I could not beat this stage. And I didn't know what input lag was. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? Why can't I beat this stage? This stage doesn't seem very hard. And, you know, I got on YouTube and found out this thing called input lag. And I went and bought a CRT and original hardware, and that started my whole quest for perfection in retro gaming. Like, I don't just retro game anymore. Like, I have flash cards, optical drive emulators. I have 3 CRTs, 36-inch CRTs in my room, BVMs, friggin' SCART switchers, whatever. I got a lot of equipment, all to kind of try to get the best retro gaming experience. It's not a collection to look cool on a shelf. It's for practical purposes. And this was the stage that started it. When I went from a 10 frame of lag setup to original hardware, I was blown away. Okay, so right now you can see this is my original hardware flash cart. That's the EverDrive menu. And I'm going to use my SCART switcher right now to switch over to my MiSTer. I have the MiSTer and a RetroArch setup all set up, and I just have to switch over. So I just switched over right now to my MiSTer. And you're going to see me. Oh, I had to use a cheat code so I could just warp to the Clinger-Winger stage so that I don't have to play all the way through it. Battletoads is pretty hard. I didn't want to have to play through it, so I used a cheat code just to get to the Clinger-Winger. But anyways, back to my story. I was blown away by how good original hardware was to just whatever crap I had lying around that I was gaming on. And I just started trying to get better and better equipment. And it was all spawned from this stage in Battletoads that I played probably in 2014. And I've always had a soft spot for emulation. Like, this game got me into original hardware, but I've always kind of dabbled in emulation and tried to get a good emulation setup. And I have an amazing emulation setup. I have RetroArch on CRT Crtemudriver to a CRT, and it has very low lag. I've got it down. I figured it's around 3 to 4 frames on Nintendo. Some games I might have 3 frames on an arcade game. So here I am. I'm playing on the MiSTer now. And it just plays exactly like on Nintendo. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna beat it twice just to demonstrate that I can. And you know, I played it more times than this, but I don't die. I don't fucking die. And I've never had this happen on an emulation setup. Even on my RetroArch setup that's got about 4 frames of lag, 3 frames, 4, I die all the time. I can't beat, I mean, I've sat there and played this over and over, and like 1 out of 10 I can beat it on my RetroArch setup. If I sit there and like get used to the input lag and kind of adjust to it, I still die all the time. It's not practical. But this right here, MiSTer, this is it. Like, it works. No input lag. And they said there was no input lag. Everyone brags about how the MiSTer has no input lag. So I was hoping it was true, but I didn't believe it. Well, not that I didn't believe it, but I wanted to test it. And for me, this is the most powerful way to test it. Like, someone can do a pad hack and demonstrate it, whatever. But this, like, because I have so much history wrapped up in this game, and I know this stage is so demanding. I mean, this stage is more demanding than Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, than Street Fighter, than anything I can think of. And right here, I'm on the MiSTer, and there's no save states on the MiSTer, so I just have to kill myself right here to start the level over again. And that is one weakness of the MiSTer. It doesn't have save states like you will with emulation. And my original hardware on my EverDrive, it has 1 save state, and that's huge. 1 save state to me is better than all of the freaking cheat codes combined. But I can get by with cheat codes, and that's what I do with the MiSTer. And about the MiSTer, you know, I call it emulation, and it's debatable. People get caught up on, you know, terms and this and that. It's really its own thing. You know, people will say it's hardware emulation. To me, it functions like emulation. Like, when I'm using it, I have the feel of when I'm gaming. It's in practice, it feels like you're on an emulation setup. You have this little mini computer like a Raspberry Pi, and you load your ROMs onto an SD card, and there's cores or emulators on it, and they play your games. And then you have additional features you can use, you know, like an emulator typically does. Now, there are caveats, like there's no save states on the MiSTer, you know, whereas you would on like a traditional software emulator. But for the most part, it feels like you're using an emulator, the gaming experience. And so, I mean, the MiSTer has some really cool benefits. Like the TurboGrafx 16, the CD quality on it on original hardware isn't very good. Like the game Gate of Thunder, for example, it has excellent music, but on original hardware you can't really hear it because I don't know what's going on with the TurboGrafx 16 CD. But when you play it on the MiSTer, you can boost the audio quality. So I've just been blown away for console gaming. I actually prefer my MiSTer now to my original hardware for most things because of these extra features it has. The one exception to that is probably the Nintendo, where my original Nintendo, I have an EverDrive with save states. Okay, so I just switched right now. My switch box just switched over. So now you're looking at my RetroArch setup. And this is Battletoads on RetroArch. And I'm going to try and play it the first time right here without trying to adjust for input lag. And I die really quick. And then the second time I try to actually like press my inputs a little bit sooner than I normally would to adjust. And I really do try to beat this with RetroArch. I'm not trying to like make it look bad to make, you know, prove a point or anything. I don't even have to. Like, I remember when I first got my CRT Emudriver set up, one of the first things I did was go and play Battletoads to see if I could beat this stage. And I can't. I couldn't do it. I remember I tried over and over, and I eventually, like 1 out of 10, I could beat it. So I just knew, okay, Battletoads you can't play on RetroArch, even with CRT Emudriver. And if you're not using CRT Emudriver and RetroArch, if you have an LCD screen and you're using software emulation, you're going to have more lag than this. Like, good fucking luck. You're not going to beat this stage. So, what else to say here? Yeah, RetroArch. So that's one thing. Like, when I first got into original hardware, I thought all games were going to be this demanding with input lag because I got stuck on this one part. And they're not. Like, this is a really special case here where the input lag is cumulative in this level. Like, my RetroArch setup works fine for damn near every single game, pretty much every game. Like, and in some ways I prefer it, like a lot of arcade games, I prefer to use my RetroArch setup over the MiSTer, even if the MiSTer has an arcade core, because of the convenience of save states and just there's some other features. Like, sometimes the original hardware sounds pretty bad on the MiSTer, and then it actually sounds better on RetroArch. Willow is a good example of that. But you can get by with software emulation for damn near everything. Depending on your setup. Like, I have like probably the best setup you can have for software emulation as far as, okay, so here I'm showing you you know, my latency setup. I should actually have pull type behavior to early, and I don't. But yeah, that's the video, guys. Just wanted to demonstrate we're there. You can have an emulation setup with no input lag and beat the most demanding stage ever with the MiSTer. All right, later, guys.